Friends, it is a trap, and we are being suckered into this. You need to be warned. You need to know what's going on, because this is actually downright scary. What's happening over in Europe is about to draw the United States into a world war, and we need to be putting a stopper in this fast and simple. We need to talk about this, friends. What's happening in Europe? We got drone activity, we got balloons, we got all sorts of stuff. And all of this is really just fake stuff that is happening, that isn't even happening, because they want to draw us into World War III. We're going to talk about what's going on over in Europe. Things are getting really dire in that country over in Eastern Europe, and the European allies of the United States want to get us into that as quickly as possible. We're going to walk through some of the incidents that have happened just recently, and we're going to show you how these things are really amounting to one simple thing: a set of false flags designed to draw the United States and the rest of Europe into World War III. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And of course, you are seeing things on this channel that you will not see anywhere else, and you will not see them in mainstream media for sure. All right, so what's going on here? We're being told by the mainstream media, the leftist, globalist mainstream media, that we've seen a bunch of drones over Denmark. They were shutting down a bunch of airports. And yet, mysteriously, we haven't seen any documentation of these drones. No videos. They can't seem to find any of these drones. And even more telling, these drones that they can't find apparently are doing nothing. They're flying around and then landing safely somewhere and disappearing. It's almost as if these are one big nothing burger. These drones aren't attacking aircraft. These drones aren't trying to attack aircraft. These drones aren't intentionally flying over certain airports or anything like that. They seem to be flying near airports or in the same vicinity, close enough to these airports that these airports are concerned. And yet, nothing is actually happening. There's news stories, then there's fake news stories. And we're seeing how these fake news stories are being pushed. Drones over Denmark, drones over Norway, drones over... We were seeing this in the United States before, except remember when we had those drones in the United States? We had thousands and thousands of videos from citizens videoing the drones. Where are all those videos of civilians recording these drones near the airport? We have lots of people near these airports, and yet nobody seems to have a video of these drones near the airports. Does that seem a little bit suspicious to you? In America, Americans seem to all be able to see these things. And yet in a more densely populated area of Europe, like Denmark, Copenhagen, near bases in Norway, we got Germany. I mean, all these are densely populated countries with people everywhere, and everyone has a cell phone, and yet nobody seems to have taken any videos of these things. And then we're being told about these balloons over Lithuania. Well, it's now come out that these balloons in Lithuania, about 20 of them, were actually balloons from Belarus carrying fake cigarettes. Yes, friends, they were carrying fake tobacco. Yeah, scary stuff. This is just end of the world stuff. This should definitely have the NATO changing all of its protocols. This should have NATO fielding whole squadrons of F-35s, because this dramatic escalation of a few Belarus smugglers trying to smuggle fake cigarettes into Lithuania. This should have the world on edge, right? We're being told these drones are flying all over. German Chancellor Merz is saying that these drones across Europe are all a coordinated campaign by the Russians to... What? Please, Chancellor, tell us what the Russians are hoping to accomplish with all these drones that are flying safely in places in Europe. Exactly. But then you look on the other side of the equation and you say, what has NATO countries, these European countries, what have they done in response to these non-stories? Well, they've done a lot of things. The French decided to board and raid a Russian oil tanker that was sitting in international waters. That's not something you're supposed to do, because they were told that this oil tanker was being used to fly drones into Denmark. Well, they went on board and you know what they found? They didn't find any drones. They didn't find any evidence of any drones. What did they find? They found an oil tanker. They stopped, boarded at gunpoint, held the crew hostage because they were told something and turned out to be not true. So another nothing burger. Ukraine is out there telling Denmark that they need to close the Baltic Sea to the Russians. That is a massive act of war. That is the only way that the Russians can get out to the Atlantic Ocean from the Baltic Sea. So St. Petersburg getting out to the ocean. They want to close that to all traffic of any Russian ships or any Russian-related ships. That will literally be World War III. You can't do that. That is absolutely insane. That's what Ukraine's out there doing, talking about these drones are being flown off tankers. Because, yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what Russia is doing with its oil tankers, is like, hey, let's put a couple of drones on these things and fly them around. And not do anything, but fly them. Because that's what oil tankers do. I mean, they cost thousands of dollars per hour to operate. Some of these oil tankers cost $1 million a day kind of thing to rent these large oil tankers. Yes, but I'm sure what they're going to do is they're going to just position them and then fly little tiny drones to over European cities to take pictures or something. Who knows what? That's exactly what I think Russia's doing, and they're threatening these European cities in order so that those European countries will shut down international waters to all Russian ships. If that makes sense to you, you probably should turn off the CNN a little more often, right? Okay, so the French seize a Russian oil tanker. They're talking about closing Russia's access to the Atlantic Ocean, except over past Norway, right, and Finland, over the top. Not only that, but, all these stories have turned out to be big nothing burgers. Why are they doing this? Denmark has deployed F-35s for the first time over Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. That means that these F-35s are basically doing circles around Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is bristling with surface-to-air missile batteries and is designed to withstand a full NATO assault. It's the little island of land that Russia owns on the Baltic Sea, smack dab between Lithuania and Poland. It's extremely vulnerable, extremely exposed, and Russia is very sensitive about it. And then you got all these people out there on the internet carving it up, giving half of it to Lithuania and half of it to Poland. And, Russia is kind of sensitive about that. And now we have NATO fighter jets, stealth fighter jets, flying circles around Kaliningrad. We got massive airborne operations. One of the things that just happened just yesterday, actually earlier today, is that we saw that all NATO aircraft, NATO fighter jets, tankers, airborne surveillance normally have their transponders on. Normally they can be seen by civilian traffic so that, their collisions don't happen. All NATO aircraft across Europe switched off their transponders because of the drones and the balloons and stuff. Are you seeing what's happening? And let me give you a why. Let me give you a why this is happening. Because Europeans who desperately want to get to war in Eastern Europe with Russia are noticing something very important. And that is that European country in the Eastern Europe is getting its butt kicked, and it's getting it kicked hard. The last over the last week, there have been waves of drones and airborne missile strikes on that country like we haven't seen since ever. Well, we have never seen anything like this. They're firing more drones, firing more missiles than ever before. These are now hitting new targets too, demonstrating increased capabilities to deep strike, and they are going deeper into western, the far side, the opposite side of that Eastern European country from where the battles are happening. They're hitting manufacturing sites. They're hitting all sorts of chemical plants. They're hitting across the entire country. They're now starting to hit power plants, and they're hitting power plants hard. Now, before, they were targeting the transformers. They were targeting transformers at the power plants. Now they're actually targeting the power plants. And they are doing a lot of damage, and a lot of that country has been knocked into the dark. Not only that, but they're now hitting moving targets, particularly trains. This is something that the cruise missiles from that country were unable to do before, is targeting moving targets, particularly trains. Trains are actually surprisingly hard to hit because you set up the target package, and by the time you actually get over the target is in a different city. So it's not that they move like super fast at any given time, it's that they just don't stay put. They just keep moving. And so they're kind of hard to target that way. But now we've seen just over the last week or two that these are now very intentionally hitting locomotives. They're hitting the locomotives, and that country is running out of locomotives to pull the trains. And this is getting really, really serious for them because they use those trains heavily to resupply the fronts and to keep their economy going. This is devastating to that country, and it's causing them to more rapidly lose territory out in the east, the Eastern Front with Bear Country. Bear Country is grabbing new sections of territory, and they're grabbing strategic sections of territory. They're starting to envelop new cities over there, and this is getting very, very dire. There are no peace talks on the table at all right now. No peace talks at all, and they're losing ground faster and faster, and it's more increasing evidence that now as Bear Country pushes forward in certain areas, they're not meeting any resistance, which is now opening up the possibility that they can do a deep penetrative invasion. They can send a column of tanks and infantry deep into enemy territory and to break up the battle lines. An encirclement movement could happen very quickly to cut off whole Eastern European divisions or brigades could be isolated very quickly, and this could be devastating. The war could move very, very quickly if Bear Country chooses to do so. And the Europeans are in full panic mode, which is why they are trying to do anything they can to start pulling us into the war. But they know that them fighting against Bear Country is not going to really go their way. If they send their troops, their tanks, and their aircraft into that Eastern European country to help fight, they might just lose without America's backing. America's backing, and to a lesser extent, the UK. The UK is mostly on board with this, but sometimes their population can get a little ornery as well. So there needs to be a good, convincing reason. And what we're looking at here now is we got the narrative started. Drones, balloons, stuff's happening. All that needs to happen now is something needs to explode in Poland or Romania or Lithuania, possibly even Estonia. Something needs to go kablooey. Now, whether that starts off over an Eastern European country and comes across the border and goes kablooey into Poland, and then they all point the direction of Bear Country, not the people that shot at them, but that's what we call a false flag, friends. And then Poland demands that all the countries honor Article 5. Now, it's got to be stitched together well enough that the U.S. intelligence community can't definitively say who did it. So that's what we're waiting for right now. And Europe is mobilizing and getting ready for World War III. They're telling their hospitals to get ready. They're telling their populations to get ready for war. They're telling their troops and soldiers get ready for war. And this is, what do they know that we don't know? They know that they want to get into the war. Now they need somebody, and Mr. Z over there, I'm sure, will provide them a reason, a plausible enough reason to get them into the war, and hopefully, they're saying hopefully, to get the United States in as well. It's one big, massive trap. I hope President Trump sees what's happening, and I hope we do not fall into this trap. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below, because this is super important. This would be a massive war and would probably end in the exchange of nuclear weapons. All right, friends, hopefully you guys are getting prepared because things could go squirrely real fast. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.